Agus Diarso is an academician associated with the Gadjah Mada University, and he is currently chairperson for the professional certification body in Indonesia. He is also the chairperson for the academic member of the National Forestry Council in Indonesia. His passion in sustainable forest management can be traced back since 1984. He is very senior then. He's continuing on board to promote certification both for forest management and also for professional in forestry. It was the big ceremony at that time because this is the first time Indonesia, Community Forest Indonesia got certificate from LEA at that time. And then after they got certificate from LEA, a lot of visitors coming there. Many visitors, researchers, and observers, something like that, coming there. And then we as a facilitator to these two villages, we monitor the activities in these two villages. And when 2 years later, after we come to this village, the people over there is saying to me that there are a lot of visitors visiting this village, but nobody buy our wood and our timber. That's the problem of community forest, because everybody gets, but nobody wants to buy their wood. But actually, I have a picture here. I took this picture in Farnham. It's outside London. This is the small store over there. It's actually selling furniture from the community forest. I traced back and I asked to do the owner of this store. He said that he imported from community forest in Java. I mean that there is a chance for the community forest product to market abroad international. So, for example, I saw that this one chair over there, the price for this is about 700 pounds sterling. And when I see at the commodity forest industry in Central Java, the price is only about 100 pounds sterling. So there is a huge margin, but it's not. The margin is not coming to then do not go to the community. It's going to the trader and something like that. So that's the problem with forestry in Indonesia. And we talk now about the challenge of promoting community forest in Indonesia. Please welcome the Pak Agus Diarso to present about the development.
Thank you very much, Pak Ucok. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all of you. Welcome to Bali. Welcome to Indonesia. I'll be presenting on the landscape and how to manage the landscape in the perspective of Indonesia and Indonesian government, and also how it will be arranged, organized with respect to the currently mainstreaming permanent forest management unit establishment in Indonesia. Next, I will be discussing about the landscape, the community forest management of the landscape, FMU in the landscape network, FMU and community forest, and the remaining challenges. Next. It is generally understood that the landscape is a mosaic scenery composed of interrelated arrangement of ecotypes, hydrological types, demographical types, and land-use types. So this is my own definition of the landscape, and probably not in deviation with that of these other scientific definitions. Boundary of landscape is relatively flexible depending on the objective of the landscape management. unfortunately, in Indonesia, depending on the landscape management. Unfortunately, Indonesia landscape management has not yet been really defined. Now, the lands and forest governance in Indonesia can be described in the components of spatial planning, privately governed land, communal governed land, or indigenous people's land, adat land, we call it, state forest land, and forest land allocated for non-forestry uses. This is types of land management schemes in Indonesia. Next. So, Indonesia, what is more or closer approach to landscape management is a watershed. The reason behind that statement is that Indonesia is archipelago country, which means watershed is much more sensitive to that on the continental these countries. And with that, then watershed is characterized by physical, hydrological, and phytogeographical arrangement. And this covers also all the characteristics of the landscape. And the other argument is that the watershed in Indonesia has already been structurally managed and good. The planning and monitoring of the watershed management is under the purview of the central government. There is one Directorate General to deal with that, and at every province there is a watershed management centers. On the other side, the Ministry of Public Works is also dealing with mostly on the rivers and waterborne, and as well as the watershed, the Ministry of Public Works has the technical units on provinces. So the government structures there is becoming clear with the program and monitoring schemes. So the government will take the planning and the monitoring and evaluation. In the middle, the implementation of the management is handed over to the local government and all economic operators as well as the community groups on the ground. Next. So the community forest in Indonesia perspective, next. We'll say that we come up with reiterating that the forest is required by the government, by the laws, and you can see that all forests shall be interconnected of the ecosystem in the form of lands containing biological resources permitted by trees in the natural environment. So forest is basically part of the landscape components. Next. Forest function, forest management, and forest utilization. In Indonesia, we have the situation that the government has already classified forest into protection, conservation, and production functions separately, in separate allocation, separate areas. And forest management can be managed by the forest owners on the private land, managed by the community on communal land or other land, managed by the government on state forest land. Can be divided central government and subnational government. And forest utilization, we differentiate between forest utilization and forest production. Forest utilization is coping with wider meaning that all possible production and services can be extracted from that definition. Can be managed by forest owners, forest managers, and forest holders. Next. The community forest, Professor Didi will elaborate this in more detail, but this is to classify that community forest can be found in individually owned private land, or we call it hutan rakyat, forest under communal or other forest, community legal scheme on state forest land, composed of village forest, community forest holders, community plantation forest, and community forest partnership. And we have to play with all of these terms when we are working in community forest in Indonesia. they have a different characteristic, they have a different legal status, and they have a different schemes in approaching the management of the forest. Next. So, again, that Professor Didi will elaborate more on that, but I will continue to the concept of permanent forest management unit. It is, I need to clarify that the forest management unit, this terminology is totally different from what being perceived by common people, which is forest management unit as conventionally used as forest concession, forest operators on the ground. But forest management unit in Indonesia is a permanent setting by the government, led by the government, but open to all economic operators. This is permanent, so it will not change when the government changes in policy. It will not change when there is a political upset in the government. Take for example, right now in the forestry, the authority from the district level, regency level governance on forestry is being uplifted and handed over to the province level. But the permanent forest unit, FMU, is still there. It will not be intact. So the FMU by law should be established covering all types of forest, all functions of forest. So this is one of the legal elements that FMU can be uplifting blocks for the landscape approach in forest. Next. So the FMU is part of the landscape planning, indicated by forestry planning system. We have decree number forestry laws number 41, development planning laws number 25, and environmental laws number 32. All of those are related to the landscape planning in forestry. And the implementation of landscape planning in forestry has been authorized, delegated to the FMUs. The setting of the alignment is FMU engineering design at the province level. So every province, they have to design the FMUs based on the landscape characteristics. The next is FMU-based red plus approach. And FMU-based regional development planning, FMU should be part of the regional development planning. And the last but not least is FMU should be established based on the watershed configuration. Next. FMU in the watershed basis can be made clear that by law, by regulation, FMU is to be established considering watershed formation, and FMU is to implement watershed management on the forest areas. So, as I said earlier, that watershed as part of the landscape, the government will take only the planning at the one of the edge, and at the end, the government will take the monitoring and enforcement. In the middle, this is in forest areas, FMU is taking responsibilities. This is FMU configuration at Brau watershed, East Kalimantan. We have here watershed of Brau River. This is the Brau River in the middle, and we have 4 FMUs, almost covering all the landscape of the watershed. So this particularly mostly occur in islands outside Java. This picture shows us how FMU is playing a very vital role in landscape management. Next. With respect to Red Plus, this is another province at Riau. You can see here that the FMU is already designated by the province government to be the Red Plus point of implementation, covering Kampar Peninsula landscape. Next. FMU and Forest Certification. You are certification people, and I need to talk about the certification. In Indonesia, we have several types of certification: timber production, non-timber production, environmental services certification, certification along the supply chain of custody, and the last but not least is personal competence certification. This is a new area of certification. We are approaching sustainable forest management through the operators, not only through the management, but through the individuals working with the operation of forest. And I'm the chairman of the certification body in forest restoration. So this is my promotion. Next. Design for FMU certification. We are moving towards in the future, since FMU is a building block of watershed management, and watershed is part of the landscape, the important part of the landscape with respect to Indonesian situation. Then we are moving towards single FMU, single certificates. This can be approached by combination of several things. The one is governing individual forestry operators certification through encouragement, coordination, supervision, guidance, promotion, information management. So when FMU has already have several number of forest economic operations on the ground, then those operators have already secured some certification, then it is the obligation of FMU to deal with the maintenance of the certifications of individual certificates held by the operators. That's the first thing. The second thing would be we have a group of aggregate certification under FMU management. This is will be happening on areas where there's no single concessionaire holder, license holder on the ground. So FMU will take over all the certification, including the community managed forest areas. It is not anymore the individual community group will secure individual certification. It's too hard, it's difficult for them to acquire that. So the FMU will take over all of those, and this has already been in Aceh province. The second is mixed governance of those things, two things. And that's the last. So it's a combination of approach. But at the end of the day, FMU is the one and responsible, permanent, entirely with respect to controlling, supervising, enhancing, improving the certification stage. Next. FMU and community forest. FMU is to govern community forestry on the state forest. This is another responsibility, authority. Other forests, the indigenous people forests, may be systematically managed by own FMU. There is a window to set up, to establish indigenous people's FMU, community-based FMU. One of the examples is an FMU at Yapen Island, West Papua, where every resource of FMU is governed by other leaders. FMU is to collaborate or manage in partnership with community forests outside the state forest. And this is mandated by all of them. Particularly with the issuance of the new law that there is no more forestry office at the regency district level, that FMU will take care of all the governance issues on the community forest within or outside the boundary of state forest. The next is FMU is to facilitate certification of community forest, and this has already been started at Sulawesi and Aceh, and also at West Papua, and also West Nusantara. Next. The last two parts of my presentation is to give you more pictures on what is happening with the forest management unit. Again, forest management is totally different from forest concessionaires. We call it capital, not RP. Next. This is a drought again. I have presented that drought landscape is composed of 4 big FMUs, and this is the biggest FMU at drought. We have seen that in colorful areas, there are areas that have already been operated by 11 concessionaires. 11 forest concessionaires, and the white color within the boundary of purple is the space, possible space, physical space for FMU management to create community forest and certification of best management practices on those forests. Next. This is the licenses under the FMU Brau Barat, and you can see that it should be clear when the government has already mandated that all of the FMU has to secure mandatory certification. When there is a problem with this obligation, then it is the responsibility of FMU to deal with that. Next. And this FMU has already also organized this area by allocating as much as 49,000 hectares for community forest within the next 10 years. So this is where you guys, certification community, will have an opportunity to work harder, to work more effectively to cope with community forest certification. And there will be more than 600 FMUs all over Indonesia. So your opportunity, your window of promising opportunity for certification and pursuing sustainable forest management of community forest is about 15 million hectares all over Indonesia. Next. This is the Brau Barat FMU is also dealing with community forests outside the licensed area, totaling to 276,000 hectares. So this is where the Brau Barat FMU should encourage community groups to implement the SFM in their own territory and being reviewed by the FMU management. Next. Then the potential community forest teams, we have various types of forest. Community forest, as has already been mentioned earlier, we have communities. This is a mixture of timber, non-timber, outdoor amenities, and biodiversity scientific objects. At Brau Barat, there is a FMU is managing a business of scientific research, because it contains of the highest biodiversity in the world. It offers the conservations of orangutans and other scientific advice. There's asset protection forest management communities at Malaysia. This is at FMU Brau Barat. Already 10,000 hectares has already been allocated and right now being operated by collaboration with community interests, community forests, with local governments and other NGOs, particularly the ANC and next. The remaining challenges, this is the last part of my presentation, so it will take 2 more minutes. Many people is asking, what the hell is a bamboo? What kind of animal is that? They forgot that every forestry graduates in Indonesia have already been taught in their schools, their colleges, that what they are taught is the management of bamboo, not the management of forest concessions. But when they are working at the government and the NGOs at the business side, they are asking, what is happening? So this is about the mindset. At the past, most part of the forestry graduates working on the desk, inspecting documents. Not anymore. With FMU, everybody has to go in the bus, in the bush, in the jungle, to work day to day with the community, work or day-to-day with the forest license holder. And this is not about the licensing, this is about the partnership. From the point of the government will not only take levies, charges, royalties, but the government is also, government deserves also internal revenues generated from the FMU management. Next. And the next is, it is under the government regulation number 6 that every FMU is mandated to be operated by professionals. So everybody working on the FMU by this regulation is mandated to secure certificate of working competencies. And this is new because at the past everybody can go to the bush, go to the forest and take any forest product out of it. Not anymore. Yeah. And with that, the personal professional certification is a major means to achieve, and we have comments with that. Out of 200 FMU managers, 62 of them have already been certified and passed the competency assessments done by the Indonesian Forestry Professional Certification Bali, like by Agus Johnson. Next. We need a massive capacity building, including to the government officials, including to the NGO leaders, that FMU is the future of Indonesian forestry, and we have to move forward to that direction. Otherwise, we will go back to the square one, the darkness of the forestry governance and management in Indonesia. For that, we need a regulation reform, as you can observe on the slides. And next. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tarman, and ladies and gentlemen. Actually, yesterday we discussed about the same issues, community forest certification. So this morning I would like to hopefully enrich our understanding about the community forest certification. What I would like to present here about the general characteristic of community forest in Indonesia, and then the second is IFCC initiative to develop certification, community forest certification in Indonesia. And then I think the last issue about the landscape approach, I think Bapak Agus presented already. I think for Indonesian people know about the classification of land use in Indonesia. Yeah? We divide land into forest land and non-forest land. Yeah. And in forest land, we have permanent forest and non-permanent forest. Next, I think. Please. And we also divided the land and the forest in terms of property rights. Yeah? We have three kind of property rights: land property rights, yeah? State forest, and then customary forest and private forest. Next, in which in state forest also can be divided into permanent forest and non-permanent forest. Also in private forest and also customary forest can be divided into permanent forest and non-permanent forest. Community forest. Now I would like to present about the community forest, especially in private forest and state forest. Yeah. Next. Yesterday or maybe in the first, on Monday, on Monday, we discussed about trees in forest, in outside forest, or forest and outside forest. Next. Yeah, about the characteristic of community forest, particularly on private forest. Yeah, the community forest owned by family or by household, not more than 0.5 hectares, yeah, per family. Yeah. And then also we very happy, I think, because for 10 years the areas of private forest increased significantly. Please next. These tables show us about the increase in areas, private forest areas. Yeah. Mostly, our people, our community forest planted teaks, yeah, teak trees. Yeah. And the second, famous albizia, yeah, albizia or parasariantes. And then the others is mahagoni. Next, yeah, as can you see from the tabels, it is increase. Yeah, sorry, back to yes. No, I mean, sorry, this table, yeah. You can see, sorry, this one, yeah. For example, takes, yeah, takes, your 2003 only mostly 80 million, but increased significantly in 2013. Yeah. Now about more than 150 million trees, yeah, not hectares, yeah, trees. Next, yeah. And this is the distribution of private forest, mostly in Java, yeah, mostly in Java. It is about more than 300, yeah, trees, yeah, in Java, yeah, and total in Indonesia for arbizia about for 2013 about more than 300, and for teak it is about 160. Next, number of forest household, based on the National Statistic Agency, number of forest household, it is about 6 million. 6 million household. Of course, they do not manage all ticks trees, but I think ticks and then albizia and other species. Yeah. Next, this is example from Central Java. Yeah, tick stand. Next. This is example in Kalimantan, yeah, about community and private enterprises partnership. Next, this is in Central Sulawesi. Yeah. Next, yeah. Actually, the community forest products, yeah, has been linked to the industry. To the wood-based industries in Java, and the products has been exported to Korea, Japan, Middle East, and other countries. Next, especially for unfinished, yeah, products, as we can see in Central Java, in Wonosobo. Yeah. Next. Now I would like to present about the community forest on state forest. Yeah. our government will introduce or will develop social forestry, and will cover at least 12 million hectares. But based on the next table, can be, based on the maps, map of state forest, the government will allocate the state forest. It is about 13 million hectares for the social forestry, and here the social forestry will be on production forest, protection forest, and conservation forest. Next. Yeah, this was the example of what the local people manage forest on social forestry, means hutan kemasyarakatan. Yes. Community forest actually is part of the household livelihood. Yeah. So they manage not only trees but also others forest products, non-timber forest products. Yeah. Next. And they also allocated their family labor in or outside forest, in or outside village. Now we would like to promote the community forest certification initiated by IFCC. So I would like to give some ideas, to how to develop community forest certification. First, development of community forest certification system, not only the standard but the system, I think has to consider the characteristic about the property rights, about the socio-economic aspect. I think should be considered, because I think we have diversity in the forest itself or in the socio-economic aspect. And community forest certification, I think, should enhance the social capital, for the community itself. So I think it is needed for us to support the community forest. We strengthen the social capital, including local institutions, and we hope to to transform from the social capital to collective action. And as Prof. Agus explained about the landscape, about the watershed, so it is very important how to mobilize local people to manage forests, cover the landscape or cover the watershed to be collectively. So it will be increase the ecological function of the forest. So I think it is very important for us to develop the community forest certification, but not only about the standard, but I think also we develop the system. Next. And then also actually we still have a problem, but I think it is beyond the community forest certification, because I think we can also develop the other standard in this case. I mean about the COC. We can develop COC standard that can help the people to get high price, or that of course would like can increase the community forest income. Yeah. Yes, I think what I would like to share with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning everybody. Just to remind you that I'm Richard Laity and I work for PEFC International, Southeast Asia. I'm looking at projects and development. Today I'm very excited to talk to you about projects which we normally mean group certification, pilot projects, and making certification work for smallholders and communities. Please, I will manage it. I think we did. It's okay. So I thank you for the previous speakers. I think Indonesia is a very mature country in terms of its certification infrastructure, and we also have heard from the two speakers before that the government has recognised that there needs to be some landscape level governance structure through the KPH, and that the IFCC is developing a standard that's more appropriate to the communities and smallholders so that they can be included. This sets the scene of how we can scale up certification solutions throughout the landscape. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. I hope we come for more discussion. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how we expanded, and I'm going to give you some examples from Thailand and Vietnam. Give you a little bit of what is regional certification, what is group certification, the technical parts, and I'm then going to leave you with what a group certification model looks like, and then ask how could that work, and how in the Indonesian context with the community forestry standard being developed and with the KPH being spread throughout the country, how are we going to make this work? So we are seeing for production systems in Southeast Asia, we've got to scale up from stand level verification to landscape level, and this means we've got to go into new places, we've got to go to new people and into maybe new products and services. We look at working across diverse landscapes and working in amongst agricultural systems, working with people that have a range of socioeconomic contexts, a range of uses of the forest, and a range of products coming from the forest. So it might even be that the environmental services become part of the expansion of certification at the landscape level. So I wanted to give you two examples of where I'm working, one from Vietnam, one from Thailand, where we're looking at two different approaches of doing large-scale smallholder certification. The first in Thailand, I'm sorry, these pictures have become a bit... first in Vietnam, sorry, we see the acacia seedlings. This is in a cooperative, one of the many thousand cooperatives in Vietnam. We are working with the cooperative alliances, so at a provincial level, working with a single semi-government organisation that also has a business function, that has hundreds of cooperatives as their members, and then each cooperative has hundreds of households as their members. These inside the membership, there are tens of thousands of hectares of forest owners, and this is a way of us to be able to work with an existing structure to add certification processes that work at a landscape level. You know, I think we can share with our experiences from PEFC across the world, such as Spain, where they say that they can get about 90% of the standard can be verified at the landscape level. So this means reducing the complexity at the forest management unit. And in Vietnam, we're doing it through a government jurisdictional area. Then we go to Thailand, where we can see the eucalyptus trees, and these might only be a few trees along a rice paddy, but they end up equaling 1 million hectares, which ends up being more than 25 million cubic meters of wood. That is a lot of money going into farmers' pockets, but it's also a very large industry for a country to develop from. In Thailand, we're using a different approach to access the landscape, a different landscape approach, and that's through the companies. The companies have a wide reach across multiple provinces, and they can be used as a way of verifying that wood resource through their own supply chains. Just letting you know a little bit of the difference between regional certification and group certification. I suppose the first Vietnam example would be an example of regional certification, where we're looking at a government jurisdictional boundary, and group certification, which goes beyond that. Just very quickly, regional certification, often geographical boundaries. It could be watershed boundaries. It could very much fit with the Kapiha approach, because it's a government jurisdictional boundary. And of course, it's the common objective of decreasing the cost of certification. When we say regional certification, I see it as a bit of developing a management system at a scale that means that the additional costs for smallholders or communities to access that certification is there at a government within a government boundary or within a watershed boundary. The difference with the group certification is like a Thai example, is where it might go across government boundaries, and it can pick up individual forest owners or individual group members, which might be associations, they might be small companies, they might be community forests, but it would be under a group manager rather than under a regional jurisdictional manager. So I then wanted to talk about trying to be more inclusive at a landscape level. And so PEFC, through the chain of custody, offers a controlled source due diligence system. And it might be possible that we have some group manager, at a large scale, and we get members in through a controlled source due diligence as a first step. And then we can move them through through an assessment into being fully certified under a forest management certificate. And it's coming up with the clever approach of how do we assess these smallholders, how do we assess these communities to identify the risks, and to come up with appropriate management system. And this is what I call a stepwise management system, so that we can be inclusive and as the market demands, whether it be controlled source, so for legality, traceability, and some core environmental social values, how we could include those people, and then as the market demands, as forest management is required, we can bring them across. This is how at a regional level we can actually have different members or different parts of that landscape can work towards being fully recognised under a sustainable forest management standard. And then the last question I leave you is, this is what is inside a landscape level certification system or a group management certification system. There must be a group entity. It could be Kapiha, or it could be like Vietnam, the Cooperative Alliance, or in Thailand it could be a company. They need to have a manager who elaborates the procedures, and this might be through the landscape level environmental social impact assessments, or it might be through developing the management system. They need to define and implement a training plan, or they need to, build the capacity of those members to reach the management, to include them in the management system, and then they must support the members and evaluate and monitor the members. And then, of course, have the documents and records so that when a certification body comes along, they can come and check the group system and check a selection of the members. And so the question is, what are the best models to do this? And with the KPH as an emerging governance structure, and with the community forestry standard as an appropriate standard for communities, we're enabling we've got the enabling environment, and then now we've got to make the model work. Now we've got those tools available. So I would finish on that, and I would say just in finishing that we must have scale, and we must think about cross-commodity. We have these KPH, we have these streamlined standards. We can also use company supply chains to drive this landscape approach. And the PEFC model with national ownership, working within the system, using existing processes, and an existing process which we're going to hear about in the next session is the FLEGT process, the SBLK. So I believe the IFCC and with the government of Indonesia with their KPH approach are going to be a great way of building on the SBLK system, which is a way of getting lots more synergies. This again is reducing the costs and allowing smallholders and communities to access certification with some net benefit. That is all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the excellent presentation. I'm interested on the final presentation about the other customary FMU. Can you elaborate more how can it work in harmonizing between the adult and the street land? Is it special case in Papua or already recognized by the national level and applied for the whole Indonesia? Thank you.
Thank you. It was very great presentation by the presenter, and I would like to ask Pak Agus, so Pak Richard and Pak Didi. You presented about the KPH, and in my opinion, when we plan to make a certification process, we will have some challenges that there are so many like multi-layer companies inside of the KPH, that we should arrange how to make a certification process. And also Richard have option that there are group certification and also regional certification. That it will be nice when we can set up a certification. That Pak mentioned that IFCC have a system of certification that can enable the regional and also group certification in the system. But I think we should to think that how to fund the certification, forest certification. Maybe it can be shared costs within the KPH. You know that in KPH, so many companies. I could say that in road there are 12 companies that can share of the certification, and also you know that in the area maybe have community forest and also small community forest that they should be support the other companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I represent World Resources Institute. It's been very interesting and excellent presentations. And the second presenter actually mentioned about permanent and non-permanent forest. I would like to hear more. If you could elaborate what is actually the definitions of forest defined by ICC and also PEFC in general. Does it follow the national forest definitions of Peru? Because then it really matters. The second is that is the title of the events promoting community forest certification. I mean, I would like to hear more from the three presenters, or perhaps also from the audience. What will be the, because we know that community forest in Indonesia, especially also has complicated issues when with regards to the tenure land ownership and so on. So conflict at the local level, how then actually this certification process could actually help to resolve those vital issues. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Pat Norrigan from the Malaysian Farmer Certification Council. Good presentation, but Richard, I have a few questions. Okay, you talk about the different types of approaches to certification, regional certification versus group certification, right? And our Indonesian friends have mentioned that within FMU, you also talk about the different certification schemes. So how do you correlate this certification approach versus the certification scheme that you want to certify against? Because within an FMU, are you also looking at other communities? Say if you only look at the forest, community forest versus the other plantings that may also warrant some form of certification. So how do you coordinate this? Because if you take the case of, say, for example, Malaysia, you have the rubber plantings, the rubber smallholders versus the oil palm smallholders, and because you are certifying for sustainability, one thing what we have noticed is you cannot get the guarantee for long-term tenureship of that particular land under that particular crop. So you are not actually certifying for sustainability. You may be just certifying for legality or like a control source material.
Yeah. About certification at FMU level, there are some questions related to that. Actually, we have divided to 4 FMU units at different provinces, and still developing. The next issue is on if under FMU there are some operators. How do we deal with the certification from the perspective of FMU? This is where the importance of landscape label certification is that there should be a component of governance, not only management. So how to govern the certification? How to govern the performance of every individual operator on the ground? That must be included in the standard of landscape certification. And we are moving toward that decision. And with that, every FMU has already been prepared with long-term management plan, which within it there is a forest area organization, and within that area organization there are areas allocated for community-based forestry. Meaning, this is where community-based certification can be adapted. And the next is that the important also that 30 seconds about the customary rights. Yes, we have several. Basically, customary rights should be recognized by FMU, even though the government particularly does not exactly implementing the MK35 decision. So with respect to rubber and palm, as as long as they are related with the FMU, then FMU will take care of that in terms of governance and how to review, how to monitor, and how to evaluate. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to give to add what Pak Agus explained. First about I think it is important for us. One certificate for one KPI, I think is very interesting. So, in that area, there is community forest, in terms of customary forest or private forest, I think, no, I mean, only community forest or state and customary forest, I think will be covered in this certificate. Yeah. But of course, each members should complete the standard, I think. Yeah. And I think, yeah, when we implement in KPH, it means technical issues will be solved in this management activities. Yeah. But of course, as Pak Agus explained, we still need government's policy. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to answer some of the questions. I think the funding group certification is a good question. I've seen them come and go. I've been part of them. They must make business sense. They must be made around production. And I also believe the landscape with the big companies could subsidize small companies. I think from the German model, they do that. I think it's a great idea. Responding to WRI about resolving tenure issues, just two examples is in Vietnam. As certification is driven, then the farmers that don't have the land tenure are often, it then triggers the government to come and allocate the land tenure. At a larger level in Thailand, when say rubber, which is a very big issue, where there's a lot of rubber with planted in protection areas, now that there's a national council that are dealing with this issue, they're dealing with some of these larger landscape zoning issues. So I see certification driving that. Harry, I like your question, and I know where your red hat is representing the OPAM. I think regional certification, seeing it as a jurisdictional management system, it can include many commodities with the same function. It's the same processes, just maybe with slightly different standards. Your question, your comment that rubber and other commodities don't have long-term land tenure, we can redefine sustainability a bit, and we can look at it at a landscape level. We can look at those maybe many short-term land tenures changing across the landscape can be measured at a larger level of forest cover or something like this, so that there is the flexibility to include those shorter-term rotations. And I think the last question about the landscape management system we use, the difference between group certification and regional certification is the biophysical governance. We don't only do it to get to scale, but we should also think about biophysical or forest type. Watershed is one way where we might have codes of practice or something that then makes sense. So landscape level management systems are based on the production systems and the biophysical conditions, which make the system more appropriate. And I would love to work more in South Asia, but I'm learning group certification from Spain, and so please use the full PEFC family to learn from, and I look forward to keeping the information about how we can do this landscape level certification together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have great presenters, 3 presenters over here, and I would like to ask you to give applause to history members. And for the next session, because the time is very limited, so please put it to coffee and bring it to the room, and then we start immediately for the next session. Thank you.
Okay, good morning everyone. We're running a bit late. And we were originally mooted to start with a short video presentation, but because we are running late and because we have two additional panel members, which I thought were actually more valuable than sharing a short video, we're not going to start with the introductory video. But we're going to start basically going straight into the panel. The purpose of this session is to actually investigate how different sectors address issues of the landscape approach, who works with who, what are the pitfalls and constraints in implementing the landscape approach on the ground, and translating the work that C4 and partners and others do at the conceptual scale, and how does that play out on the ground. And what I'm going to ask the panelists to do is to speak from the heart rather than from the head. And I know that there are some prepared statements. I think we want to get away from having this sort of corporate or institutional position and actually have a much more honest discussion about the realities of the field from different perspectives and how that all plays out in terms of some of the successes and some of the failures that each institution has. But let me first introduce the panel. To my immediate left is Fitri Ali Ansari from IDH. Oh, sorry. And let me start at the end then. Chris Bennett is from the USAID Lestari project. Lestari is focusing on 6 landscapes, if I'm correct, in Indonesia. We have Simon Hancock, who works for Conservation International, and they have a Sustainable Landscapes Partnership, which is focusing in Indonesia. Matt Leggett from the Wildlife Conservation Society, who are undergoing a lot of conservation-related landscape scale activities in Indonesia. We have Dewey Pramona from Asia Pulp and Paper. Thank you, Dewey. And Diane Loverina from April, so representing the private sector. We have somebody this. And Agus Utomo from Bali, Indonesia. And Agus gave a very nice overview of the work that we're in Indonesia doing the landscape scale in a session yesterday afternoon. So the first question I really want to ask is a short intervention from each participant on the types of activities that they are doing institutionally and some of the constraints and pitfalls that are immediately apparent in their respective landscapes. So let me ask perhaps the conservation folks to start. Simon, would you like to open the floor?
Hello. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to Terry and the conference organisers for providing the opportunity. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work we've done in North Sumatra. One of the things I just wanted to start by saying is I think one of the issues confronting us is the use of the word landscape. And similar to some of the other buzzwords that we've heard in the past, talking about landscapes, linking them to project scale interventions. But then, as you progress to jurisdictions, districts, and more broadly across the landscape level, has a whole series of challenges as well. So, from point of introduction, the program that we've been working in North Sumatra is 3 jurisdictions, so about 1.7 million hectares. Districts of South Papua New Guinea, North Papua New Guinea, Mandela. Why did we pick these areas? Because the highlands right down to the coastal areas, they have some of the most significant and special remaining areas of biodiversity in the North Sumatran corridor, where we have orangutans and we also have a range of other important ape species as well as tigers. In that mosaic, that landscape, we also have palm oil concessions on peatland areas. We also have significant stands of rubber agroforest as well as Arabica coffee and other commodities like cocoa. So it's just between the southern parts of Toba Lake, extending down to the border with West Sumatra. So it's a bit of a geographical orientation. Within that landscape, so we have 3 districts. We also have two large watersheds. Within that setting, we have areas that cascade down into other protected areas, Batangalis National Park, as well as protected forests, we have KPH, so the forestry management units there, as well as then cascading down to smallholder, as I mentioned, a number of commodities. So typically you've got rubber and rubber and palm on the lowland areas, and then you've got more diverse agroforestry systems and cropping arrangements in the upland areas. When I started the program, one of the challenges was, and the core aim of the project was how we can look at low emissions development, how we can look or consider some of the different approaches to conducting business as usual and what that might look like. So we started the program and we wanted, one of the key things that was really important was how to form partnerships, how to leave some of the baggage or the language, the lexicon that we use, RED and PEFC, payment for ecosystem services, some of these other concepts that are typically familiar or not well understood. In fact, when we landed on the ground, the first thing they said is, where's the carbon money? So the carbon cowboys had come out and had created expectations about the fact that there were opportunities for RED, and 5 years later we've seen how that's translated into some opportunities in some places, but not necessarily in others. So the process required us to really understand what stakeholders were engaged or interested about. Second part that we wanted to really focus on was how we use science. So CI, Conservation International, as an organisation, has been in existence for 30 years next year. And one of the things that we really try to focus on strongly is how we can link science to supporting improvements in sustainable production, linking it to also supporting the conservation of natural capital. So as we spoke about over the past few days, the issues around climate change, sustainable production, the growing demographic and population issues that we're experiencing in the future, these are passive problems that are also impacting on the ground in some of these places. But the words, the language we use, we need to be careful about. It needs to resonate. And the second thing that we need to do is we need to bring science to the table. So one of the things that we did was to use some modelling in terms of hydrology, understanding some of the ways in which rainfall, standing forests were important to things in ecosystems in this setting. The second thing we did was looking at a comparison in terms of the suitability and forecasting the climate change and the modelling going forward for a range of commodities. So we did that in terms of looking at scenarios through to 2050, because what we wanted to do was say, okay, we've got people here now that are planting palm oil, they've got rubber, they've got coffee, they've got cocoa, but what does that look like? What are the potential downsides or risks for those areas if we take it out to a 2050 horizon? So in addition to that, we did a lot of value chain analyses. We looked at rubber, we looked at coffee, we looked at cocoa, we looked at some of the constraints to production, constraints to competitiveness at a farmer level, as well as bringing in some of that other science and policy to inform engagement with the government. And again, we're very nuanced about our language in terms of speaking to donors. We talk about things in terms of RED and payment for ecosystem services, but what are the key reasons behind and motivations that are really important. So one of the key things I think in terms of the point about the definition of the landscape, I think being upfront about the fact that some of them are maybe project scale interventions, and as opposed to a genuine landscape, and notwithstanding some of the issues around that. One of the things we saw also is that you've got to be flexible and responsive. So I spoke a little bit and noted this as a forestry conference. We had forestry management units that had started or had been initiated, but we provided a range of different capacity building and training to help them with long-term and short-term business plans, as well as capacity building in terms of how they might approach management of those forestry management units. In another case, we had a protected forest that had no categorisation, no status as a forestry management unit. And so what we did is work with local government and stakeholders to consider how they might like to either support that through the formal recognition of an FM forestry management unit or not. And so what we've been able to do is provide the science and some of the rationales as to why an FMU might be important to manage those natural resources. In overlapping that, we've also provided support to watershed agencies. So typically we're trying to look at how we can support an understanding between conservation and sustainable development. I think at that scale, we've got many players. What we try to do has been to identify some of the key stakeholders, clearly government, local communities and the private sector. And so these are the people that have equity, they have a stake in the landscape, And so that's part of the key thing, is to really focus on how to engage with them, translate some of the opportunities that they have, and building relationships. So a lot of what we've done has been through multi-stakeholder forums, bringing people together to share ideas and understand some of the changing demands and challenges more broadly. And one critical thing is that we've done is using the science to influence spatial planning, and that's primarily through a strategic environmental assessment, which is through Indonesian law. So it's a really critical opportunity to be able to engage with governments, whether they're districts or provinces. And more recently, there's been a change in the law that's brought a lot of the planning processes to the province. But that's an opportunity in terms of providing broader strategic opportunities to work together to manage land in a more balanced way. Lessons learned.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Before we move on, because I just wanted to give everybody 5 minutes to introduce the general project. But what's the longevity of your investment? Just so we can have that discussion later on.
So it's 5 years. So and that takes a lot of time. So internally, when you're working, developing the skills across a range of different portfolios, and I'm happy to dive into that a little bit about the internal machinations of trying to bring a team together that typically might have been a forestry background or social development or agriculture. Some of these challenges, working within a team to try and get some of the synergies, are also the type of operational realities. Stop there.
Thank you. Matt, would you like to talk about what WCS?
Hi, thanks. That was a sterling introduction to conservation in the whole of Indonesia. It's difficult to follow that, actually. So WCS, Wildlife Conservation Society, Indonesia, we've been in Indonesia for around 30 years, in different places for different amounts of time. But so from an investment perspective, we've had a very slow burn towards thinking about what landscapes approaches mean. And I think, to echo one of Simon's points, is defining a landscape is complicated. As many of you know in the room, there's been ongoing conversations for a long time now about integrated conservation development projects. There's been a number of different phrases and terminologies bandied around this idea of bringing together different stakeholders to solve complex problems in specific locations. And I think this is just the latest iteration. So from our perspective, our approach is actually quite focused. WCS historically is focused on biological surveys, biological conservation within protected areas, and as a kind of proxy to that, habitat protection. So from our side, our starting point is always the landscape of a national park or a protected area. In that sense, it allows us some freedom, because the national parks in Indonesia are obviously very large and cover very interesting kind of biological and geophysical areas. But it's also a constraint, because, as you know, national parks don't necessarily cross over district, provincial boundaries neatly, and they certainly don't cross over ethnic, social, or economic boundaries neatly at all. So, I guess from our side, one of the things that we see, one of the struggles and pitfalls that we see, is very much that I think because there's complexity around what is a landscape, and we hear a lot of conversations about supply chain transparency, we hear a lot of conversations about corporate sustainability commitments at the macro level. How do we make palm oil more sustainable? How do we make timber more sustainable? How do we deal with these big macro supply chain issues? But when it comes to what we consider to be a landscape, when it comes down to an area which is being heavily deforested, heavily encroached, which has got a significant decline of the priority species, tigers, for example, in Sumatra, often the translation of those landscape level ideas is missing at the local level. So from our perspective, the trick, the challenge in implementation is really trying to spin this on its head and trying to look at, but when you have a company that is keen on looking at forest certification, how can that set of ideas and rules and guidelines be translated into real tangible outcomes when it comes to a specific species? when it comes to a specific set of deforestation trends at the local level. And I think that's where we are now, is trying to really understand how we do that and how we can support companies and how we can support district and provincial governments to do that. I think the other challenge that we struggle with on a daily basis is all the stakeholders who are part of this landscape are all the different places. WCS is obviously embedded in this idea of conservation. The Ministry of Agriculture in Indonesia is not. It's not their fault. They have other considerations, other issues to think about. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry, similarly, they have a very complex and difficult mandate. And I think trying to get your head around how those different stakeholders, firstly understanding where those different stakeholders are in terms of their understanding of these problems is critical, because then it feeds very much to the evidence-based, the science-based approach that Simon referenced. The messages you give to different parties are going to be different. When we talk to CI about these things, we're talking on the same level. When we talk to the Ministry of Agriculture, the messages we need to be giving them are more in terms of productivity towards palm oil and rice and other crops, more in terms of the economic stories behind the benefits of landscape approach. And I think that's a fundamental challenge in all landscapes in Indonesia.
Just to build on that, I mean, one of the criticisms that's been levelled of the conservation-oriented landscape approach is that it's a terminology that's been adopted to sort of obfuscate the focus on integrated conservation development projects, and moving out of that paradigm to say they're working on a landscape approach, but really it's a focus on protected areas with a little bit of what's called buffer zone management. And something I'd like to touch on a little bit later on. You guys have set the scene very nicely. But we have some expertise on this as well.
Thanks. My name is Agus. As wildlife partner in Indonesia, in terms of developing the program, we set our priorities based on important bird and biodiversity areas or knowledge of key biodiversity areas. So these are sites that are important globally for the conservation of biodiversity. But the trigger is from the bird taxonomy. So we've been working basically from species, site, habitat. We've been working in not only in protected areas, but areas which are important for bird and biodiversity. But more and more we realize that we could invest just on the bird, or we could not just invest on the site. Especially when we do things in Indonesia for the last, we established Check in 2000. The things that we do are not very much on counting the birds or planting trees for the birds. Often what we are doing is actually working with the community on how to better produce cattle, for example, in Sumba, on how to best get the better price for cacao and Gorontalo. So nothing to do with bird. So we have to do that so that we can gain conservation support from the community. It might look like sort of integrated conservation and development project in a way. But I'm not sure whether that is the case, because the situation that we have in Indonesia, more than 50% of the key biodiversity areas basically outside the protected area network. And for the protected areas, there are already investment by the government. And there has been lack of investment and conservation beyond protected areas. So we decided that we have to invest outside the protected area networks. But we haven't really been, in the past, one of our strategy was to advocate additional protected area network. But we realized there is a limit that the government can do in terms of budget support for protected area management. So in areas like Flores or Gorontalo, we actually not promoting establishment of new protected areas. rather we work together with stakeholders then on how that we could maintain the delivery of the goods and services from the landscape. Within that landscape, we have a network of important biodiversity areas, a network of key biodiversity areas. So, in the end, we end up working in sort of productive landscape. In Flores, for example, the forest areas that part of the landscape actually production forests and protected forests. What we've been doing there actually helping or facilitating local government to establish forest management unit rather than promoting municipal farm. And also similarly in Gorontalo, where the important site that we identified as critical, which is in production forests, we are targeting for a new ecosystem restoration, but we realize that the connectivity has to be maintained, and the selection of the site is based on that. Because the site connect, for example, with 7 protected forests, 1 wildlife resource, 1 nature reserve. So it's very in the core of the landscape. So we end up working with the whole stakeholders to maintain the natural forest cover. So yes, one, in terms of landscape, we are working in productive landscape. We work with mostly smallholders who are producing coffee, cacao, candle nuts, and the reason why we are doing that is to maintain the connectivity, the network of important areas and key biodiversity areas. There are 3 sort of main elements of our work on landscape approach. One is facilitating landscape governance, which often based on our lesson learned, for example, from Flores. There is a need for that to be developed with government. So governance with government. We cannot do landscape governance without government. Although there is a multi-layers of government, but not necessarily actually consider ecological boundaries, for example. But we need to include government in the governance process. And secondly, quite often, because like I said, we are mostly working with smallholders, with communities. The difficulties has been that the communities need to be organized to be able to participate in the different levels. So not just on the village level, where we need to develop the institutional side of the communities, but also on how they could then participate in the different level of governance. Because we are talking about landscape. Village, I would say, is the sort of smaller scale of the landscape. But then they need the communities need also get involved in the bigger and bigger scales of the landscape. And the third element of the work that is important when we do a landscape approach is that we could not just get people or facilitate stakeholders to talk, to negotiate, having dialogue. There has to be something going on the ground that they could see the real tangible benefit of doing it, and especially with regards to the communities. So, as a conservation NGO, we end up also facilitating marketing, for example, for marketing of candle nuts, getting connected with cacao buyers, for example. So that's unavoidable. So that's, in a way, us as a conservation NGO, we don't want to be sort of the manager of the landscape or getting bigger programs so that, having a bigger portfolio. But it is necessary to expand the works. So we understand the limit that we have in terms of the capacity. So we do believe that government is important, but I think there's the third element, which is the private, which could actually provide leverage very much in the landscape. Unfortunately, in the landscape that we are working, private companies are not many. So what we have is often smallholders, or cooperatives. So that's quite challenging. The communities will only be interested if there is a tangible economic benefit for them. If we want to maintain the process. And that end up actually we need to facilitate sort of social enterprise for the community. Cooperatives, for example, being the vehicle of the economic development in the landscape. So I think this sort of main points of the lesson learned, which I would share.
So basically your entry point is bird conservation, but you end up doing much more focus on community development, alternative livelihoods, governance structures, etc.
It's pity there is nobody here from government, because the Ministry of Home, I didn't mean that facetiously, but the Ministry of Home Affairs recently reminded everybody in Indonesia, everybody, all Indonesians, all Indonesian government agencies, that you don't have to have prescriptive regulations for everything you as a ministry or the private sector do out there. You don't have to have, in the terminology here, a juklak and a juknis for everything. And the Ministry of Home Affairs is trying to encourage innovation and saying, insofar as something does not explicitly break a given law, be innovative. Don't look upon the absence of policies, prescriptions and plans as a reason for inaction to collaborate across sectors in the field. And that is on record, and I think that's tremendously important. And it's a reminder to us all that not everything needs to be prescribed. What we need to do is to unleash the indigenous knowledge, the social capital, the human capital of local communities, as well as the companies working together, and really to enable them to find landscape-based solutions, and not to just wait until there is a plan or a policy which tells us exactly what we should do. In today's Indonesia, that is the message. I think it's an important message, and it's one way to move forward so that you can find site-specific local solutions. Different sectors, villages, private sector, local government can work together as long as they don't explicitly break any law. Don't wait for a juklak or a juknis, is the message from the Ministry of Home Affairs. And I think that that needs to be spread more widely amongst those who are trying to do landscape-based approaches.
From our side, this is not greenwashing. This is basically now part of cost of operating. Because those are real threats that we have to deal with for our concession, and you cannot just work on it alone. You need to have that engagement, you need to have that coordination and synergy between all the various players on the ground, because you have, like I've said multiple times, we all have limited resources. We all need to get and do this together, and the only way to look at it together and finding the common benefits is looking at it from the landscape level.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. For what is our last afternoon of this fantastic week. So over the last day and a half, we have traveled across many subjects, across many countries, touched on political landscape, verification programs, use of technologies, forest productivity, forest restoration, and so on and so forth. But how to make all this passion, all this hard work on the ground meaningful? Meaningful through the whole supply chain, all the way to brand owners, all the way to consumers. So meaningful that, for instance, demand of certified product doubles, and thereafter demand of certified forest area doubles. Okay, welcome. Welcome to the business case for selling certified products and how to build market demand and value. For those who don't know me, I'm Fabienne Sinclair. I'm responsible for marketing at PEFC International. So this afternoon for this first session, our guest speakers will showcase their initiatives about how to partner with brand owners to showcase the label, how to effectively engage with consumers, how to increase access to certification, and the business case for certified products. So we have, on the panel, we have Mr. Quentin Yang, Senior Director of Asia Pacific Market Development Infrastructure Solutions at Westbrook. We have Sham Saku Ranzela, Director of Malaysia Timber Council, with responsibility for Europe, and also Vice Chair of PEFC International. For AA, Mr. Tilwit Littlebone couldn't be here today, so Dr. Shinara Gonshu has kindly accepted to stand in for him. Thank you. And then finally, last but not least, Ms. Yuling, Secretary General for China Forest Certification Council, so our CFCC member. Okay, so without further ado, we will start with our first speaker, Mr. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabien, and good afternoon, everybody. So yesterday and this morning has been focused on the front end or the upstream of the sustainable product supply chain. So I'm glad to see this session will focus on really the downstream of the whole supply chain. And before I get into the case study for the creating value of sustainable product, I'd like to start by telling why. For those who don't know Westrock, we are a PEFC international stakeholder member, and we are a newly formed, about a year ago, newly formed company by merging two global packaging producers. And the Midwest Medical is a global consumer packaging leader, and Rockpan is a North American corrugated packaging leader. So by merging together, the new company is a paper packaging leader with $14 billion sales, 39,000 employees around the world, and about 13 million tons of paperboard product from all our mills. So because fiber is our starting material, so sustainability has been a long-term strategy for our growth. And we have a very strong sustainability platform focused on three pillars. So the people, planet, and performance. So we have a very comprehensive set of criteria, performance criteria focused on energy, water, waste, greenhouse gas, and so on. And also, we also included some diversity and inclusion for our employees and our suppliers, giving back to communities and so on. So that's the people part. And then we are focused on responsible sourcing through the fiber certification and chain of custody. So when we talk about sustainability, it's not just a word for us. It's the fiber of our company. And up to now, all our paper mills are certified to the international standard. And then 99% of our fiber-based converting facilities are certified, chain of custody. And our goal is to become 100% by 2018. And because we don't own the land for our fiber, so we have to work with hundreds of landowners for certification. Right now, roughly about 1/3 of our purchase of virgin fiber is certified, and our goal is to increase by 25% by 2025. So all these are published goals that you can find on our website. And why do we so committed to the sustainability? And that's because our customers and our consumers care about it. And in the last several years, we have done some consumer surveys on sustainability issues, and almost, a lot of consumers, and I think everybody knows this, everybody cares about sustainability, that it can make a difference for the next generation. And that is really the driver, one of the drivers to motivate the consumer to buy sustainable products. However, there's a lot of confusion. I think many people in this room agree There's so many different labels, logos on the product, packages, and so on. And there's a lot of competing sustainability messages. So it's really up to everybody in the room to help make it convenient, make it easy to understand, to use or reuse, the sustainable packaging of the product. And most of the consumer would say it's not only their own responsibility, but also they're looking for governments. And it's no surprise, actually, 42% of people we surveyed they say it's brand owner's responsibility to help make it easy to understand and to educate them. So I don't know how many people in this room right now is a brand owner. It doesn't matter, it has to be packaged product. It could be timbers, lumber, whatever. Can you raise your hand if you're a brand owner? So there's one. Thank you for coming. Two. So again, it's very important that in this long journey of sustainability supply chain, we are right now so heavily focused on the front end, which is not wrong. This is good, but also we need to focus on the downstream that's interacting, interfacing with the consumers, and that's where you can really educate the consumers to help you push. That's the marketing part of this whole certified fiber product. So with that insight, and we know the packaging suppliers like us have to work very, very well with the brand owners together to really complete this last mile of sustainability journey before reaching to the consumer. So that's where Westrock and Healthcare comes together. That we work together, we form a global strategic partnership to really go through this journey. So when I say partnership, it really means truly a global partnership. If we just sell product to Carlsberg, that's only a relationship. It's not a partnership. So to make a partnership successful, you really have to have a shared vision, a common belief that this is matters. And you have to have shared objectives. And you have to leverage each other's strengths. So when we form this partnership, we have a common packaging strategy for sustainability. And we all know this is important for both our companies. So when we form on this partnership, we really focus on 4 areas. So we focus on productivity, commercial productivity, commercial excellence, and also innovation, also operational productivity or excellence, and then sustainability. So all these areas that Westrock have the expertise in paperboard packaging, and we also have a long history. So through the Midwest Maple and Rock Pan, the combined long history of environmental stewardship. So we have a very good reputation out there, and that our customer Carlsberg can trust and can also know, can believe in us delivering that promise if we work together. So when Carlsberg invited us about 3 or 4 years ago to become one of the founding members of their circular community to help them to achieve the sustainability goal, and they know that we can be trusted and we have a history of achieving some of the objectives, and we accepted because we know this partnership will really help both companies adding values to us and to help them as well. So it has to be a mutual win-win situation. So we will work together, and I'm really glad that Carlsberg put that trust in us, and by naming us in their 2015 sustainability report, and they highlighted that they achieved one of their first objectives, which is using more certified packaging for their products. And they mentioned Westrock specifically as one of their supporters to achieve that goal. So again, when we work together, helping them using more certified packaging through certified fiber is the first goal that we help them to achieve. And then we also work together with them on the, I don't know how many people are familiar with the cradle-to-cradle certification, so that's take a little longer time to really ensure, the package by the time it reaches to the consumer, it is 100% certified. So I'm very proud to say that WestRock is one of the largest PEFC certified facilities, manufacturing facilities in the world, and so we were able to supply Carlsberg the PEFC certified paperboard for the packages. Go back to this. So, in that picture on the left is from a magazine publication that specifically put the PEFC logos on the picture, so this highlights how appreciated that the company and for this program. But I think that's what we need. We need to see more success story like this in Asia. So if we have a success story like this, we can single out PEFC, how that helps the packaged product reach consumers, then more consumers can be aware of the significance of the meaning of certified fiber or certified packaging or certified product. So again, just to summarize, the key to the success of this partnership is really, number one, is the trust. That the company Carlsberg has to trust us and through that history of long environmental stewardship and trust us we can deliver that sustainable goals that they established. It also has to have a shared strategy for sustainable packaging. So with that shared strategy, we work together very closely, not only to say for the sake of making money for each company, but it's really bigger than that. Have the social responsibility part of it and really achieve something bigger than just making money or global business together. I think that's my presentation. I guess question later.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. It's always tricky talking at a session just after lunch, so I thought I won't bore you with a PowerPoint presentation. I'll see if I can keep you awake and provoke some thoughts instead. Okay, I won't be too productive. Now, as you know, I come from Malaysia. Malaysia is my home country, but we have been based in Europe. The Malaysian Timber Council has had the European office running for the last 23 years. My parent organization, the Timber Council, is 25 years old next year. And we have another closest partner, or should I say sibling organization in the room, which is the Malaysian Timber Certification Council. Now, the previous speaker focused on partnerships and collaboration. That, I think, was the start of the strongest part of our efforts internationally. The strongest collaboration for Malaysia began at home. It's the partnership between my organization, the Timber Council, the Certification Council, our government authorities, our forestry department colleagues who have a tough job of implementing what they have to, and also members of the industry. In my view, our success would not have been as significant as we have managed it over the last 25 years if not for this close partnership and collaboration. Because we all needed to have a singular aim and a similar set of objectives as to what it was that we wanted to achieve. Now in Malaysia it's interesting, we've always had natural forests as our mainstay. Sustainable forestry was already partly in place due to our colonial days with the Brits, partly there, but it had to be consolidated in the 70s, 80s and 90s following the Rio Summit. And then it's the case of rights. So we think of certifying the forests or sustainably managing the forests. At the same time, our market in Europe was also already there. So in some ways, it was already a slight advantage because Malaysian timber was already in demand from the high value markets. Then next came that other challenge you know which one I'm talking about, the one that came out from the Rio Summit and with the establishment of various different bodies in trying to say that, well, okay, you can export to Europe or elsewhere, but you need to prove that your resources come from a sustainably managed resource. So we set about doing that, and credit to the Malaysian Timber Certification Council, because that wasn't an easy task either. Now, where the partnership grew even more that was the start of the strength of our basis, the sustainable management of our natural forests, which then gave members of my organization, the industry members, the products that they wanted to market to the high-value markets. Now, there was no way the industry could succeed in maintaining their market share or market access if not for the sustainable management of the forests. So that gelled that partnership. One couldn't really succeed much without the success of the other. Now, if we had certified all our forests, now you've got all that high-value resource sitting there, if the industry didn't market it and continue that demand for those products, where would we be today? Sometimes it scares me to think, because we've seen this happen in many other tropical developing countries, where we face so many challenges. There are land use challenge policies, we need to encourage social development, we need to increase the revenue for the country. We need to eradicate poverty, or at least reduce poverty. We haven't eradicated, but through a combined land use policy which is set under our national development plans, under the guidance of the government and the different sectors, everything is categorized and managed carefully. So nothing is done at the expense of another. Not anymore. Of course, it used to be. It used to be because all developing countries were poor, every developing country needed to progress. Now then comes the market challenges in terms of what other partnerships do we need to build. So that's where the Timber Council itself was established in Europe, and our job was to be more or less the mouthpiece and the conduit and the action party in Europe in order to bring all parties together. Now, through the Malaysian Timber Council, we have done several efforts over the years, such as communicating widely. This is key. The communications, marketing and promotion are key elements of the work that we do, not just in Europe, also in other parts of the world, because MTC also has offices in Dubai and Guangzhou, although the challenges are not the same as we face in Europe, naturally. So the communication part is so important. So whatever that the Malaysian Timber Certification Council achieves or needs to achieve or needs to improve, we then communicate it to the outside world in trying to garner and increase that market support and demand so that people continue using our products. If we didn't have that market demand and we lost market share, or if we lost market access, that's the key thing. If we lost market access, then that's it. We would have to think of other alternative sources of revenue, and that's when the forestry, and timber would be under severe threat and become sunset industries. I think with a lot of tropical developing countries, this is the main issue that we need to deal with. So, next, of course, is positioning the products in the market. The key theme this afternoon is how do you gain value? How do you increase that demand? It's by convincing people, by giving them trust and confidence. You need to build confidence and trust in the systems that we're trying to promote. So initially, of course, the Malaysian Timber Certification Scheme was a singular scheme on its own. But it was a question of time before we realized that it's very difficult to do this on your own in an environment which is reasonably hostile. The EU is reasonably hostile now, in the last decade, because of all these pressures on them. So, in order to break that hostility, because there are people who still want to import tropical timber products. Why? Because they understand the need to continue using it. Otherwise, it's a case of use it or lose it. That's the key message number one. Key message number two is there are certain applications in industry and construction which cannot be replaced by temperate products. Although, of course, lately with product innovation, that is becoming challenging. We do have competition these days from engineered timber products, and this is where even as an industry ourselves, from the tropical side, we need to innovate as well. It's not good enough just to say, oh, we've got the most valuable hardwoods, so that's what we're selling to. We need to adapt to market demand, and this is the whole process that we have been engaged in for over 2 decades now. We adapt to market demands, We are committed to continuous learning and continuous development. The positioning of the products in the market is the most important thing. Consistent communications, and we build partnerships also with our European importers, the timber federations whose members import from us, because again it's a shared responsibility and a shared aim that we strengthen each other's credibility. You get what I mean, don't you? If somebody's buying your products, if you can't convince them of your own credibility, they're never going to want to continue that relationship. On the other hand, if you don't safeguard that credibility, they might get caught up in the European market, and at the end of the day, because we are the supplying country, that blame and that negativity will definitely come back to us and impact on our industry and our suppliers. So the other follow-through question from this is, how do you build that market demand? From communications, trade exhibitions, joint activities even. There are several NGBs in the room that have partnered both NTC as well as NTCC in jointly communicating to target audiences on how we derive value from each other. So it's not just a case of explaining how good we are at biodiversity or how good we are at environmental protection. We need to get the revenue. The economic element is equally important, because without that revenue, we can't afford environmental protection and social development. The employment element is the social side of things where we are concerned. The labor unions come into play also, and all this is built into the system. And these are the elements which Europe normally focuses on, and our critics are there, of course, and we have competitors and critics all the time. But because we are from the tropics, we are constantly seen as high risk, although ours was the first certification scheme to be actually established in Southeast Asia, and dare I say also in the tropics. So we've been market leaders, but sometimes, it's tough being market leaders, because you're always in the limelight. You're always in the spotlight. It's a bit like the best student being caned all the time. We've felt that many times. We're so advanced, and yet the slightest criticism that comes in, because we're quite well positioned in the marketplace, sometimes you're set reading on the ground, but you can't give up. You have to get up again, stand up, march on, right? Then, of course, then people say, well, so the forest management is one thing. Good. Next would be the chain of custody, which then proves that credibility. It's tracing back to source. And sometimes I must admit, ladies and gentlemen, it gets a little bit too much. We need to find this balance in trying to make this work. Because if independent third-party certification doesn't work, forest legality will also fail. It will also fail, simply because the threshold is up here. All the countries who are involved in negotiations on forest legality, enforcement, governance and trade are trying to move up here. We are the threshold barriers. If this falls, they will stop where they are. If independent third-party certification and our success in the marketplace fails, what incentive is there for the rest of them to move up to that high level? It will never happen. So it's key for us to remember that whichever way you want to increase market share, we can do as much as we like. At the end of the day, the main influencing factor sometimes is also price. It is also price. It just depends on how much the markets are prepared to pay, how much companies are prepared to pay, and with all the competition that is going on now, we have to be careful that we don't outprice ourselves of the market. Normally, our guys, our industry guys, not just in Malaysia, I'm sure everywhere, who are working in the tropical countries particularly, they will say, so what's the market premium? My answer to that is the key. The key is market access first. The premium comes if you position yourself reasonably well with the competing products. So the advice is, do not make your products so expensive that people will not touch them, because then what happens, you will go to markets that don't care. And then that's the first slippery step downwards, okay? Then there's the reliability, where Malaysia is concerned, and I'm sure a lot of you in the room also do that from the advanced economies. You ease the purchasing problems that are faced by importers. We have a lot of challenges in the European market, particularly with the European timber regulation. Now, our function, the Malaysian Timber Council's function and our personal function in Europe has been trying to make both ends meet. In other words, whatever we are doing here and whatever has been certified and accepted and recognized is then utilized and matched with the requirements that are coming in from Europe in terms of the documentation, the levels of due diligence. And it's a good job that we do have a lot of assistance and help and expertise which we can tap onto internally as well as externally, and that makes it work reasonably well. Although the game's not over yet anyway, yeah? But it's okay. We also then have to focus on the reliability of the companies that are supplying to the European market. So it's always credibility, reliability, not just of the forest base, also of the companies, and the reliability of supply. That supply needs to be consistent. So almost everything that we do in terms of growing demand and adding value is heavily reliant upon credibility, trust, confidence, and reliability. The next thing that we need to focus on is actually increasing market visibility. That's important. That's one key point of discussion that has been discussed this week, actually all week. We have the brand now. What we need is more serious uptake of that brand. Sure, we're being forced out of the market, or not forced out, but we are being shadowed in the market by other forces. We won't mention what, but I'm sure you all know how this is happening. The next strategy plan for all of us would be to focus on that. We need to regain that market visibility and make our system more user-friendly in terms of the consumers and the retailers, because they are key. They are key to maintaining our share. Now, product innovation is costly, forest certification is also costly. Asking for proof beyond proof just makes people lose interest. So that's another thing we have to be careful about. Let's not forget there are other markets around the world that don't demand, or they're not as stringent in their demands as the consuming markets that we are all involved in. So what we don't want to see is market deviation, because market deviation will again reduce that commitment on the kind of work that we are doing. It's not so easy getting all the stakeholders to agree on different things. Now in terms of partnerships, the federations are one thing. We have also run several educational programs, what we used to call the media familiarization programs, where you take journalists back. That's a bit risky, of course, sometimes, because you might get some journalists who are pretty negative, and you may get negative press coverage. But there's this word called vetting. Vetting in terms of finding the journalists who share your objectives. So they come, they see how you do it, they have an understanding, you take them on a 2 or 3 week trip, and then they go back and they produce these articles, and this communication needs to be constant. So it's not just good enough to think, like for Malaysia, we are there, and now we don't need to do anything else. Wrong. Very, very wrong. Every year we have to continue repeating these things so that people don't forget what we have done. And with the MTCS scheme, they were pretty well established in their own right as the MTCS. Then they got endorsed by the PEFC, which was equally great. But people still sometimes look at the MTCS individually. What is that? Does it answer a question? 2 ways of looking at it. It was establishing itself as a brand. That's a good thing. That is definitely a good thing. But the bad thing is, we still come under individual scrutiny sometimes. But with PEFC and belonging to all of you, it has added value to our market position. So that's my pitch. We just need to continue working at it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Since Derek is not here today and Martin is not here today, let's see if I can try to cover some of his life, and just please allow me to go through the not quite often dealing with the book. Okay, this project we call it 1G1G project. And the campaign was launched on the 1st of July. Yeah, the campaign is launched on the 1st of July 2016 and in 4 countries: Thailand, Malaysia, Korea, and Singapore. And the objective of this project is to encourage and engage consumer participation to support sustainable production through sustainable consumption. And before I go into his slide, maybe I can have the video. There's someone even better than Terry to tell you about the story. At least take video.
Hello? Could we have some help with the audio, please? Over there? For the video here.
He's one of 1.5 million farmers. Here in the rice paddies of Thailand, there's a million reasons how you can help promote sustainable farming. This is Kana, previously unused bridges between rice paddies.
And well, here are the 3 core. You can hear me. Here are the 3 core elements of the project. Firstly, the awareness and acquisition. Well, we use the social media like Facebook or Instagram, and also setting up events and on-ground activities. We did that together with locals NGO who are also sitting here in this room. And secondly, the engagement and relevance. The engagement and relevance, did we send the message across to our target audience, people who care about sustainability, environment, sustainable consumption, and to people who use paper. And lastly, behavior and action. Our goal is for everyone exposed to this project to take action like liking, sharing, commenting, questioning, or answering anything, but the best of all is scanning and planting trees. Okay, the One Dream, One Tree initiative was driven mainly by digital media and with a lot of support of PR and ground activities. Why? It's easy because everybody has the access to the internet and or a smartphone, and almost everybody uses social media, especially Facebook. So we do this together with Facebook, and from the figures we got from 30th of September 2016, so say about 3 months after the project was launched, you can see that we spread around the message on sustainable consumption to nearly 7 million people, and this is the unique people. It means that if you are logged in at one account, doesn't matter how many times you log in, we only count one. And within that 7 million, 2.5 people have engaged back with our message or content like that. So they comment or they asking or answering, something like that. Yeah, so 2.5 million people. And our social media content was seen 48 million times. This is count everything, every time when people click into the Facebook page. So we found that the social media is an excellent platform for us to create awareness, and at least it's worked for us. Well, here are some sample Facebook postings to send message to the target audience. So we make it easy, short and relevant. We support by videos and photos to call attention, and we continuous communicating to keep our followers active. And we are very lucky enough to work through the local NGOs. The idea is to work with local NGOs. So in Singapore, we work with Singapore Environment Council, And in Korea, we work with Seoul Federation for Environment Movement. And Malaysian National Society in Malaysia, and for Thailand, we work with Training Center for Sustainability Management. And of course, we have PEFC there as our technical advisor for sustainable forestry. Well, there are some activities we have with our partners, like press conference, a lot of them, media roundtables, outdoor activities, and also sustainability workshops. So we have done quite a lot to get the message across to the audience. This number we have it last week from Facebook that we received. No, sorry, this one from the feedback from the audience. So we received about 210,000 trees now from Korea, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. So that means 210,000 trees will be planted in Thailand with the local farmers. And here are some of the positive feedback from Singapore. Like somebody said, this is a lovely initiative. Yeah, there's all the good positive comments there. And also something from Korea, I'm surprised to see how easy it is to plant the trees. And also from Malaysia, good job, blah blah blah. All the good things. And well, in the picture, you can see the consumer scanning QR code and plant a tree. And this is how easy it is to participate. So why not use the technology to promote sustainable consumption, plant trees, and support farmers and get them some more money. Yeah, so these farmers are poor, and they have very small land. Yesterday we called a lot of smallholders. Well, Thailand is a little bit behind in forest. In International Forest Certification, but recently, a few days ago, PEFC was announced, officially announced to be PEFC membership. So we are getting there, and this project, something like this, we will be definitely linked with PEFC, and we can do something at bigger picture. If you see the total tree donated by country, this is a little bit surprising because our biggest market is in Thailand and in Korea. But you can see here Malaysia has a bigger number than Thailand and Malaysia and Korea. Maybe because of the head and also maybe the strong on-the-ground activity that could be through this. And here, after you scan the QR code, you would get the picture of the farmers who's planting trees, and you will also have a picture of the trees at some certain time. And definitely you have the location, the exact location of the tree planted in some farm, in some rice field in Thailand. Well, most of them are very happy. Now, so far we have about 581 farmers participating in this project. And if you talk to them, most of them say that they're very happy because they can utilize the unused land, and also they're happy with their extra income, so that to spend for the shooting. So to keep them smile, do the scan, maybe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody here. First of all, thanks for PEFC providing CFCC a good opportunity here to share non-wood forest products application experience. We know forest supply us not only wood products, but also non-wood forest products and environmental products. Especially the non-wood forest products play an important role in social development process and maintain. So, sustainable non-wood forest product management becomes very important. At this moment, because of commercial logging policy in China, in state-owned forest northeast. Most forest bureau or units lack of initiative on wood certification. So, in some extent, non-wood forest products certification will promote the requirements of FM certification and COC certification. By purchasing and consumer labeling products in public, it's very important to supply certification idea and make forest certification well known. Non-wood forest products, non-wood forest product certification can provide supplier or farmer some support in normalization of the raw material basics and standardization of products processing, labeling of products marketing, and ensuring sustainable utilization of forest resources. Now, Zhanghua Dongzhao is a Chinese name, is a kind of vegetable. We launched, it's one of the projects we launched in Shandong province. Special focus on non-wood forest products. We organized this study as a framework. At Zhanghua Dongzhao Service Center as entity of application for certification. Under this level, there were 40 cooperatives, and each cooperative have a different number of farmers. So in this case, there are more than 100 farmers involved in the project, and the certification area about more than 500 hectares. We adopt 3 certification standards here. In management process, we use the forest management standard, is the national standard in China, and another is non-wood forest product management standard. And in the processing, we use the COC standard. So the 3 standards combined together, we apply to non-wood forest certification. We also design special logo for non-wood forest products certification. We can see if some products certified with this logo mean the raw material certified 100%. And if declaration means this product with this logo comes from sustainable forest management. And the unique random strain code on the smallest selling unit, this strain code ensures uniqueness of certification certified products. And this barcode ensure the traceable of this product with this logo and ensuring the traceability of all industrial traces among certification products, certified products, farmers, cooperatives, and service centers. So, if my presentation is not clear for you, I think the team group over there will give you satisfactory answer. Thank you.
Before taking a couple of questions, we are running a little bit short on time. I would like to do a quick summary. This session has been a little more commercially focused, the commercial aspect of what we do, starting in the forest. And we've heard some great discussions about partnership with companies, how we need to look for win-win solutions that make sense for the forest, but also for the business, and ultimately that makes sense for consumers. And I heard one word today that I hadn't heard so far in the last few days is price. And it has to make sense on the shelf, it has to make sense to the consumers who buy the end product. We've heard about how we touch consumers. I think this was a bit more emotional to some aspects, with how we touch the consumers through their heart with the One Dream, One Tree campaign, how we touch the consumers through their palate with the non-wood forest product, and also through their eyes with the increased visibility that we have on shelf, and also through their culture. And how Sharon was telling us about how she adapts, how they adapt at MTC, their marketing, their positioning, the communication campaigns based on whether they are in Europe, in Asia, or elsewhere. So it has to make sense wherever we are to the consumers. And really, so that we have, I hope this session has given you some ideas so that we have more certified products on shelf, and so that we have happy consumers buying our product. Thank you. So now I would like to open to a couple of questions maybe.
If any of you can tell me, I shall be grateful. How much more income do we get by certifying the product? Because I heard the MTCC London-based head office saying that value added. Is there genuine value added at all, or is it just a question of preventing the stoppage of products coming from Malaysia? Because if European Union has fled, can you hear me? Okay. The problem is that I have a feeling that certification is being adopted in the developing countries, export countries, to prevent their product not entering the markets in Europe or North America because of threat in Europe and because of lazy act in USA, etc., etc. I don't think, and I'm attacking certifiers, I don't think it's because people living in these countries want certified products. It's the governments, it's the borders where products uncertified are not allowed to come in. Otherwise, people, and because I have seen some of the big shops, such as, I won't tell you the name, big shops in London or Germany or elsewhere, where certified products and non-certified products have the same price. There is no value addition to the price, and if it is cheaper non-certified, the customers want to buy that. So unless there is government such as construction of housing in London or somewhere, so it is export. In other words, one alternative export is getting feeling that. And I'm very sad about that. The second thing is, when we talk about exports from China, you are talking a lot about non-wood forest products. And I think that is probably an arena worth going into. But I don't understand why bamboo shoes are not being certified in exports so that their value can be added. For instance, bamboo products, there is a different standardization taking place right now. This I have not understood. You know, BCI, they are trying to get the ISO certification separated. The third point, okay.
If we could give you very quick answers, maybe a couple of words.
Thank you. Maharaj, for our high-value markets in Europe, there is a slight difference between certified and non-certified. Each cubic meter for a particular species, the ones that are main demand in those markets, there's always a difference of between 20 to 30 euros. So there is extra income, which is great, and this is what we want to see. And also for our exports to Europe collectively. Now you see the statistics that are collected by our statistical agency, the Malaysian Timber Industry Board, does not differentiate between certified or non-certified.
right? So that's a general category of wood products, but the correlation that I'm trying to communicate to you is, over the last, I would say, at least 9 years, where are we now, 2016? Yes, 9 years, the volumes of exports have been going down, but the value of exports have been going up. So it indicates that wood products are being valued slightly that bit more compared to before. Because less volume, but more value. So we're getting more income compared to the volume that we're using for the European market. I'm not saying that that answers your question. Yeah, but when we do our monthly price market surveys, there is a difference for our trees and the African timbers that we compete with.
Thank you. Regarding the bamboo certification, we have a special standard. And now from last year, we just do some pilot project in Jiangsu province, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Guangxi province. When I got some successful experience, I will be here to share together. Thank you.
As WA, we have we try to make a logo, like saying taken from trees, but this is not recognized internationally. And we now know that PEFC is working on this and can do this a lot better than us, than we do. So now we become work with PEFC, right? And I think this is like a win-win situation where we can open up the new market, like the certified market in Europe and the US also. And here there's some margin, but I'm not a marketing guy, so I don't know how much margin we're talking about. And also by doing this, the farmers will also get something. But I think for me, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, the value add for us, for our customer, is to help them meet their shareholder expectation to improve packaging in more sustainable way. So it's more not through pricing, but more through helping them, meeting their corporate goals.
Throughout yesterday and today, I have been talking about our forest conservation policy, and I've been focusing a lot on zero deforestation as one of our main commitments. But if you can see here, there are actually 4 key aspects. And the number 3 was basically about community engagement, how we want to make sure that we are engaging with them in a fair and responsible way. And we've heard all of the various speakers before talking about how can we protect the forest landscape, and more often than not, the issue of community engagement pops up. So in our experience, that is correct. In order for us to be able to do a good job in protecting the natural forests in Indonesia, we have to think about the community. I mean, as Joe mentioned before, it's about human rights. If they can't even find a way to feed their kids tomorrow, they won't care about the protection of the forest. They care more about being able to put food on the table tomorrow. So that's something that is very important for us. For us, community is basically the most important because they're the one who are actually living in and around the forested area. And they're the one who actually have quite an impact with the conservation. And depending on how we engage with them, they can either be a threat to the forest itself, or they can be our collaborator in actually implementing the conservation. The aspect of the community that we find to be threatening to the natural forest is actually tied to their economic needs. When people are living around the forest not able to meet their daily needs, they are likely to resort to deforestation in order to expand their agricultural production, either for their own income or own consumption. So that is a direct threat for APP's business and also the conservation effort of everyone. If we want to thrive, the company itself, we need the communities around us, our concession, to be thriving as well, so that they would work together with us as opposed to against us. To tackle this forest threat, as I said before, we need to tackle the root cause. That is why we developed this program called the the integrated forestry and farming system to help them to develop a sustainable livelihood, alternative livelihood, as opposed to those that are have a negative impact to the conservation of the forested area. This program that we've launched in 2015 is focusing on 500 villages in and around our suppliers concession area. And we just started developing the program pretty much beginning of 2016, so we're still in the process. The point of the program is to strengthen and refocus the CSR programs that is actually already implemented by many of our suppliers to more focusing on community development as opposed to just providing donations. The programs include providing the community members with equipment and support in the forms of microfinance or revolving funds to help kickstart local businesses. The core concept is to support the communities to find alternative livelihoods that protect rather than destroy the forest, and to bring these communities into APP's value chain. We have committed up to $10 million over the next 5 years for this program. So the IFFS program is a shared value approach. We do not see it simply as a corporate social responsibility exercise, but as part of our core business. We view our profitability as interdependent to achieving value for the environment and for the people that work and live in and around the forest, but also value for our customers who want paper products that do not cause harm to the environment. So this is basically the framework in which we developed the IFFS. It's based on 6 pillars. Developing sustainable economic alternatives participatorily with their input to ensure the ownership of the program itself. And then we have the transfer of technology and skills to increase their productivity. And also most important is to identify product channels to market their products so that they could have good revenue based on the sale of those crops, and especially when the local consumption cannot absorb it anymore. And then potentially prevent future and solve current land use conflicts with the program, because a lot of the land conflicts that is faced by many companies in Indonesia, it's not about specifically ownership of land, but it's really access to land, so they will be able to develop it in order to get some economic benefit. To the implementation of the IFFS, we hope that we can improve our communication and relationship with the local communities itself, allow us to implement our ISFMP with the community support. If you recall, ISFMP is our Integrated Sustainable Forest Management Plan, and then prevent further forest and peat degradation to unsustainable practices. I mentioned earlier also resolve land and land use disputes over forest resources. And finally, the most important is to improve local economy and food security. As I said before, if the community can take care of themselves, then they can also take care of the environment around us. And also, very importantly, I think, especially this is for the Indonesian context, to clarify the boundaries between the various players. Earlier mentioned by Chris that Indonesia, everything is broken down administratively as a village. Even though maybe in that village within the forest concession area and maybe within that village administration boundary there is no community. So that's something that we're still working with the various authorities in Indonesia, both in the local and also in the central government. Actually, there was another last slide that I would have liked to show, but unfortunately it didn't work out. It was about one of the success story. This person was actually from that village, Pinang Sebatang. His name is Pak Suyono. Initially, he has about 4 hectares of land that he controls. 2 hectares he planted for palm oil. 1 hectare he planted for rubber, while the other 1 hectare it was unproductive. And then in 2015, he becomes involved with the MPA program, and they were provided with seed money, training, and also on-the-ground guidance in the implementation of planting vegetables and fruits. And it has changed his income significantly. Initially, when it was the combination between palm oil and also the rubber, his monthly income ranges between 4 to 6 juta rupiah per month. And he's also complaining that because his palm oil is already 8 years old, he feels that right now the result is getting worse and worse. With this new program, basically we're focusing on about 2,000 meters square, or that's about 0.2 hectare of land, and he's planting seasonal fruits like melons, and then he's also thinking about corn, and he's also planting vegetables such as I mentioned before, chili and spinach, and also morning glory. And the difference is quite significant. Right now, in his monthly revenue is about 20 million rupiah per month. And he's actually managed to hire 5 workers to help him. So not only is he improving his own livelihood, he manages to also provide livelihood for other people within this village. And when you think about the scale of the increase of income, and then the total area actually being used by the community before and after, it's reducing the pressure on the land itself, because instead of using 4 hectare, and you only get about 4 to 6 million, now you have only using a fraction of it, and you have multiple incomes, multiple amount in terms of income. So if you think of the potential to other community members, that they could actually increase their productivity and don't need to expand to encroach to other area, that is significant for the conservation of the forested area. So that's all my input right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Joe. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm Fatima Muhammad from Malaysia, representing Building Woodworkers International, or in short, BWI. BWI, people might be asking, what is BWI? BWI is an organization, international organization, which represent workers all over the world. They have about 12 million workers under them. Then myself, being the chairperson of the International Women's Committee, was nominated by BWI to be here, to be with you, to share what is happening. And then being coming from Sarawak is a bonus for me, because the case study is in Sarawak. So let's share with me here. The case study is community forestry, a Sabah forestry, agroforestry project. Alright, let me bring you all to explore Sarawak. Yeah, as you can see here, Sarawak is one of the largest states in Malaysia. It lies in the island of Borneo, together with the other 2 countries, that is Kalimantan, Indonesia, and Brunei. And another one is our own state land, it is Sabah. Sarawak is rich in its flora and fauna diversity, and form one of the global biodiversity hotspots. Forestry remains one of the major backbone of the state's economy, which derives from its revenue from export earning. But then also you can see here, the major land use includes logging, agriculture, and forest plantation. The demand for the forested land is so huge, especially in the agriculture and the forestry practice. These 2 factors, biodiversity and logging, you can see stands on constant conflict with each other. However, as this example shown from what Sister Dewi had been saying just now, this tension can be overcome. Something very interesting and rewarding, new relationships can be framed from what we can value in forest management. The conflicting land use in Sabah Forest Reserve, where the agroforestry project is being located, consists of the shifting cultivators. The Ibans community who are staying nearby the forest reserve for the 2 longhouses. They are encroaching their forest reserve
which was set aside by the state government to be the permanent forest estate. When being interviewed, these villagers or the Ibans just said, all what we want to do is live our lives as everybody else. We don't mean to take the state land, but that's our only possibility. We are just waiting to get the permits so we can grow our land and live our lives as normal people. So, with that statement, after a mapping was being done, the state government, through the Forest Department of Sarawak, proposed the project known as agroforestry project. This project was way done years back. We started the pilot project in 1995, which is being replicated now. This project was developed as a method to prevent the local or the Ibans from encroaching the permanent forest estate. They are doing their shifting cultivation. So this is one of the objectives of why Sabah is being chosen as the project. They have about 400 hectares of areas which are being shifting cultivated. And these areas are inside Sabah Forest Reserve. The objective of this project is to raise the income level and reducing shifting cultivation. By doing this, they are providing land, materials, and initial incentives for a more sedentary form of agriculture, no more shifting cultivation, to those encroaching their forest reserve. And the second one is to provide agricultural land and initial supplies to shifting cultivators in forest reserve such that both agricultural returns and forestry production is maximized. This means that the government, through Forestry Department, introduced interplanting crops with trees, growing crops in area adjacent to the plantation forest, rearing livestock in the plantation or adjacent to the forest. And the third objective is to resettle the illegal self-scatters or the shifting cultivators who participate in the agroforestry project by providing them the temporary land permit. On how to implement the project, we have to map out who will be our participants. Those will be the shifting cultivators or the local communities or the other Ibans who stay at the longhouses nearby the area. And then staff of the Forest Department of Sarawak, local authority, agriculture department, and the land survey department. Before we start the project, we have several meetings and dialogues were done. This is to gain mutual agreement between the villagers or the Ibans and the Forest Department, and also to ensure that there are local participants in the decision making so that their voice can be heard. The employees of Sarawak Forest Department play an important role in this meeting because they are the ones who are on the ground, they are the ones who are working in the Sabah Forest Reserve. We have a nursery there where our staff are working there. So these people are those that are also staying in the longhouse. They have their own, they know the dialect, they can speak their language. So it makes it easier for them to let them understand the importance of the project and how it will benefit them. As I said just now, ability to communicate in the local dialect was a winning point, especially when dealing with the elders or the head of the longhouses, as we call back in Sarawak, is the Tuan Rumah. As I told you just now, this project was started way back. It's a pilot project started in 1995, where they started by having the livestock rearing. We have the deer, we have the cattle, then there are fruits, trees, and rubber trees. And also they also established the fish ponds, at least 400 hectares of land. The initials are in 1995. They are given all the help by the government, but for the next 10 years of the project, the focus has been to try to win the people, to make them understand that what is good for them and to give them a good income. So by 2005 and 2010, from 2000 to 2004, we achieved our target to improve the people's livelihood and issuing the temporary land permit, which are the main thing, what they really want, the land permit, so that the ownership is theirs. So I'm proud to have it as their own land. By 2005 and 2010, all activities become self-sufficient. Management, administration was handed to them. In general, the profit from this agroforestry project is divided into two. 70% of that goes to the trust fund, and 30% will be divided equally among the local community. It's from 2 longhouses, which consist of 51 families. We are talking about the challenges. They are huge challenges, which I have no time, can't say it here now, but I picked 3 major the most prevailing challenges. One is ensuring representation. Since there are 51 families from the 2 longhouses, it's rather difficult to get whose voice are to be heard. Therefore, it was agreed that every family was represented, and the question rises again. Who? Should it be he, she, the eldest, or the young one? So there's a conflict there. Because being from a long house, the most important person is the head of the long house, or the tua rumah. So it's normally he or she will represent their community, their family. The second challenge is establishing the governance arrangement. As usual, when we are trying to get or trust each other, it's a mutual agreement. There's no MOU, there's no standard procedure. The question arises, what happens if the person, the professional who are doing dialogue with you, meeting with you, making decisions with you, transfer, is not there anymore? So what happened to the project? So it is important for the future projects, MOU or SOP must be there. And the third challenge is ensuring equity. Communities are diverse. Some have powerful voices, some are illiterate, most of them are illiterate. And of course, they won't understand English. Therefore, care must be taken to ensure that this group of people are not marginalized. The findings or the result. This project started in 1995, and we found out that by 2010, percentage of those living below the level of poverty fell to 35% compared to 80% before the project. And then we managed to reduce the spread of shifting cultivation, and it was ceased in 2000. Year 2000, there's no more shifting cultivation. For the third project, for the third finding, in order for any project to be that involves the local community, in order for it to be a successful one, from the start, they must be there involved in all decisions, in all the dialogue, in all the meetings. This is important because they want us to hear them, to listen to them, and talk to them. Not just listening, hearing and just let go. We must put ourselves in their shoes so that we know, we understand what are the feelings when you have no land, you have nothing to do, you have no income, and then you are chased away from the land you have been staying there. So it's important for us to put ourselves in their shoes. Because due to the success of the projects in Sabah Forest Reserve, the government has decided to do it, replicate the projects in another area where there's a shifting cultivation. That's in near Forest Reserve, northern part of Sarawak, which is in Miri district. Even though now shifting cultivation is not an issue, but state government should Sarawak Forest Department continue to work with the community, especially when land are proposed to be constituted as totally protected area. They are being involved. They are being called for meeting just to see, just to know what they want. And then the government also, in 2009, the Sarawak Forest Department in 2009, in order to give them more support, has created a division known as a Community Service Initiative, whose main task is to create awareness amongst the local importance of forest conservation and helping them to live a life as others. Besides that, I can give you some example in one of our national park, the Bako National Park, where when it was constituted as Bako National Park, government with the locals have an agreement that if Bako National Park is to be converted into a national park, the employee should come from the community from Bako. And also now in 2011 and 12, they managed to form a cooperative amongst their tour guide from the local community. These tour guides are the one who will bring the tourists to guide them into the Bako National Park. And also they have the boat operator, cooperative for the boat operator, because if you have been to Sarawak, you can imagine what I'm talking about, because Bako National Park is across the river, across the sea, quite near the sea, and it is about half an hour by boat drive. So this boat operator comes from the local community, and then they have their own cooperative where they can have their own income from this. With that, thank you all.
Thank you, sir. I want to comment the second point that how fire certification can be ready. And I like to quote coming from the Bali, the Private Companies Association. He mentioned that the forest should have to be economically viable. So how the forest certification can be viable, can be accessible by doing this linking validation and developing the scheme. So can you use another around that, making forest certification more accessible and more friendly in terms of the cost benefit sharing? So I think that's the idea that we can make the certification more viable if that is economical viable idea.
I'd like to take up Peter's suggestion. I can only talk for Asia, but we have these. This is your platform for your market. So to take up Peter's point, please send your success stories to Sarah. I work with Sarah, she will pass them to me, and I promise there will be over 25 of these kind of trade and professional journals covering those success stories. That's just one method we use, but please send the stories to Sarah. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. It's a great idea, Michael. We have to take one more question on this point. I saw a lady in the back somewhere. Was it you? How are you? The microphone. I think she's got one last question. We could have 10 minutes.
Sorry, at this juncture, the only singular sustainable item that you have is the tree, because the tree takes in solar energy, natural soil, etc., and then you are able to have it as a renewable resource. It's true what Sham said, that a lot out there are looking at the long-term sustainability as a means to save Earth, so to speak. Conservation organizations right now are looking at this source as a means to work with. Because unfortunately the greatest fear for conservation organizations right now, is conversion to oil palm. So in terms of, if you want to look at marketing in this sense, partnering with conservation organizations with a similar goal in mind allows you to take it much further. Conservation organizations sometimes do not need the money to look at the work in terms of sustainability with you. The reason I say this is because their donors, they have their own set of donors who have their own priorities to look at. We actually need to look at mutually complementary platforms where we can work together. So my suggestion is look for those solutions that are out there. Certification is very expensive, there's no doubt about it, but there are other entities out there who actually would like to go on the same journey as you guys, because their concern is a much larger one as well.
Thank you, sir. As a ski operator, I just want to reflect on this big idea of landscape and trying to wrap my head around it and trying to see how it can be actually, operated. Because, of course, if you're discussing this, naturally you would want to implement it somehow. But I would just like to reflect on the experience that we have in Malaysia. Some of you may know, but maybe I can just tell you a little bit about how the forest management is certified in the Peninsula of Malaysia. Is that the whole permanent reserved forest in the state is certified. So that's basically the whole landscape of the permanent reserved forest of the state is certified. It covers water catchment areas, it covers indigenous people, villages. And we are now at this point where there is difficulty. We have been attacked by a lot of NGOs saying that you can't be certifying these huge areas. It's how you actually monitor thousands of 300,000 hectares, 1 million hectares being certified. And it comes down to the implementation of certification in large areas. There have been calls to segregate this areas into small segments so that it's more operational. You can do better monitoring in smaller areas. But when we talk to, of course, Dr. Melvin about biodiversity, you need to have large landscapes. So we keep on having these discussions in small areas, big areas, small areas. So it's something that's not really easy to implement, but in the end, what we want to achieve is sustainable forest management that, forests that can continue to provide the services that the forest can provide to diversity protection, livelihood, resources and income to people. I'm not sure how can I contribute in this discussion about landscape if you're talking about all palm plantation, because at the moment even within NFMU, when there are changes in land use, which still within the same landscape, but we have to carve it out of the certification period. It is no longer covered in the certification scope. So there needs to be, yes, we are discussing at this level, very high level, when it comes down to operational, are we willing to include these aspects in the standard? It's big, it's great, but how do we make it operational?
Yes, I would just like to add that on top of being a bit provocative, I think that us as a forest sector and as certification, we take a huge leap forward of being inclusive and learning genuine two-way communication. We're more vocal than we were a couple of decades ago, but at the current world situation, we're in the solutions market. We're selling solutions, and we're offered a huge set of keys in this kind of chaotic time. So I would urge us all to just be persistent and keep at it. Talk about our good message and learn to listen even more, and then so that we'll be confident enough to use very big words like save the planet, use forests.
Good. Okay, well let's give a round of applause for our
Thank you, Sarah. I wanted to talk about something about an aha moment which has nothing to do with this conference. And it was when Antonio Brunori showed the football pitch on the mountainside at an angle, the non-level playing field with all the trees in it. And I thought, aha, now I know why the Italians always win the World Cup. But now back to this conference. It has been a long week where we have looked at many issues, but particularly the last 2 days, we have been looking at the challenges and the opportunities, and there are some really big, complex issues. It's like one of those Hungarian knots, whatever they call them. It's one of those puzzles that are very difficult to work out. But I think, and I'm absolutely convinced that there is energy and willingness to actually tackle these issues. When I think back at the beginning of PEFC, one of the reasons PEFC started was because the certification systems that existed at the time were not suitable to the landowners, particularly at that time in Europe, who had about 0.2 to maybe 5 hectares, smallholders. And we had to say, how do we merge existing mechanisms with new mechanisms, innovative ways of thinking to solve the problems? And we managed to do it. And we've got nearly 1 million smallholders now certified under PEFC certification. So what I want to say to you is that there is a willingness, there is a determination to partner with all of you to find ways of finding solutions for the various complex issues that we've had. We should embrace the complexity, make them into opportunities, and enjoy the alchemy of finding the solutions to actually have an approach which covers the landscape. And we would like to partner with you, to be your partner of choice, to start finding solutions for sustainable landscapes, for sustainable livelihoods. So at this stage, be aware that we are happy to work with you. We've had a lot of people here who have shown a lot of enthusiasm. Let's move forward and start becoming action-oriented to solving these solutions. And we want to be your partners in this. I want to end by saying that I also want to thank the sponsors for this event, our partners IFCC, who have been working with us for the whole week, but also APP, ACRO, IDH, C4, and of course the World Resources Institute. And I would also like to thank those who ran the side events here, including, of course, IFCC and MTCC. So thank you very much for doing that. And finally, I would like to thank all of the IFCC staff who have helped to make this event such a big success. But I also want to thank my teammates in PEFC. I want to thank Christian, I want to thank Marta, I want to thank Fabian, Torsten, Michael, who am I missing, Natalie, and a big thanks to Sarah, who's put together, I forgot, Hannah as well, sorry. I knew I was going to be in trouble, I was going to mess this up. You'll have to retake that. So, a big thank you to Sarah, who has really put in a lot of effort in contacting all of the speakers to participate in this event. Sarah, thank you, you've done a fantastic job. Finally, all the speakers who have participated and given so willingly of their time. If you're far too numerous to list, You're all on the website. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for participating and making this event such a successful event. And I would like to ask you all to enjoy the rest of Bali while you can. I intend to get a few minutes at the beach. I haven't crossed the road yet in 7 days, but I'm going to do it tonight. So thank you all for coming. Safe travel home, and let's work together for the future. Thank you.